All right, here we are. Sorry I was a little late to the party. Um, Bummer. Now I've forgotten why I grabbed. Okay. I've got two people that I don't yet have chips for that I'm having to use stand-in chips this evening. And those two people I apologize to because I wasn't able to get chips made for you yet because I have an order in, but I don't have new chips in here yet. I'm working on getting those in. But the first person is RJ Stone. RJ Stone, I'm using some of Stone Cutter's chips for you. There's 5 chips. You bought 5 times in. So I've got 5 Stone Cutter chips. Stone Cutter is not involved this evening. So anytime we see Stone Cutter, we mean RJ Stone. There those are, mixed into the bag. And then there's Roger Borland. Mr. Borland is involved tonight, and I'm using Randy's chips because I don't have a Roger Borland chip made up yet. So I've got 10 chips. They all say Randy on them, but these are for Roger Borland. Okay, so these will be for Roger Borland. And so that we remember, Stone Cutter is actually RJ Stone, and Randy is actually Roger Borland. And I have the black bag. We know what the black bag means. Black bag means we've got a special coin that we are going to use as a grand prize coin. I'm going to draw a chip out, put it in there with the coin, and at the very end of the show, we'll find out who that is. I'll go ahead and take care of that now. I'm going to dig deep down in the bag and grab a chip. Only one. This is the chip. I have it in my hand. It's going to go in the bag. It is in the bag. We can kind of, might see a little bit of it down there. Nope, probably not. It's in the bag. And now here is the coin. This is the coin that somebody is going to win. It is a very fine 1931S Lincoln cent. 1931S in very fine. Whomever is at the very end of the show will win that coin that I've placed in the bag with their name. We also have 3 $10 chips. That's $10 gift certificates. $10 to whomever gets them. I draw this, then I draw your name. You get the $10 plus you get your coin. So that's that. And then I have 3 bonus chips. The bonus chips are for 1924D Lincoln cents. 1924D Lincoln cents in fine condition. I have 3 winners for that. I draw this out. You get the 24D, and that's it. So I've got those in there. And I have a box and another box full of really nice coins, some of them worth way over what you paid for your spots. I'm mixing the chips up really well. Gonna draw out. Number 1 will be for Malcolm. Actually, I need this to be flat. Go. Move my light out. There's that. Shut that down. There we go. Number 1 will be Malcolm. Malcolm gets the first coin in the box. The first coin is a 1928S in very fine. Very nice looking 1928S large S mint mark. Roughly a $10 coin there. And I don't know what order these coins are in. I mixed them up very well. I have no idea what coin I'm drawing next, nor do I have any idea whose name I'm drawing next. And the name out next is Patreus. Patreus will get 1923S. 1923S. It's one of the semi key dates. There's that. Next up is Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray How about a 1917S? 1917S. Nice condition. Been in that holder for a long time. Next up, what do we get next? JJ. JJ, how about a 1913D? 1913D. 1 year off of being that real heavy one. 1913D. And next up, here's Sissy. Hello, Mark. 1939, uncirculated. Nice 1939, uncirculated. So far, I don't think I've hit a coin yet that was only worth $250. All of these have been better than $250. Next up, Marshall. Marshall. How about a 1928S? Nice large S, 1928S. These are 19 times less common than the small S. 19 times less common. 19 to 1. Here we go up next, Yo Man. Yo Man will pull a nice toned uncirculated 1953D. That's for Yo Man. Next out, Taco John and his well-worn chip. How about a 1953 Philadelphia? Nice gemmy 1953 P coin. Hello, Blockhead. Let's see, what do we have next here? Patreus again. Patreus. How about nice uncirculated 1943D? 1943D. And next out, well, what do you know? Got Patreus again. Patreus this time with a 1918. Nice, extremely fine 1918. Let's see, who do we get after that? Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne. Ooh, this one's nicer. 1919S. 1919S. Another good one. Next up, gosh, Patreus again. There's a 1916D. 1916D. This is that time you wish you could turn pennies into dimes. Next up, Donnie Wayne again. Donnie Wayne this time with a very nice 1928 Philadelphia. 1928P. Let's see. What's up next? Oops, I dropped one of these. Taco John. Taco John up now. 1924S. 1924S. And then next up, Toddler 68. Toddler 68, brand new to the channel. Gets a 1925S. 1925S. Pretty little coin. And then up next will be Taco John again. Taco John, 1921S. Very nice looking 1921S. Jim Fletcher in the house. Get out the cow horns. The cowbells and the bullhorns. There we go. Jim Worley. James Worley picks up a 1932D. Very nice looking 1932D. There is that. And up next, Taco John with his well-worn chip. Gets a 1918S. Nice looking 1918S. Stanley. Stanley now. 1953p. 1953, very nice looking gemmy coin. Not so gemmy on the back, but it is gemmy on the front. It's Billy on the back. Who's up next? Raymond Lungi. One for Raymond now. What does Raymond get? Ooh, 1911D. 1911D. Very nice. Mark. Mark now. 1919. Look at the condition of that coin. Very nice looking 1919. Let's see. What do we do next? Carl? Carl gets 1933D. Nice 1933D there. Taco John. And Taco, you should be just about out, huh? 1925D. 1925D. And up next, Shay Shay. Shay Shay, relatively new to the channel as well. Gets a 1943 Philadelphia. Got some toning on it. Toning issues. Who's next? Carl? Carl up next. 1932D. 1932D. And Otis. Let's see what Otis has. There's a 1914. 1914 Philadelphia. And next up, Marshall. Marshall. How about a 1924S? $1924S. Next up, Patreus again. Patreus, back to reality. 1937D, uncirculated. It's a 37D, uncirculated. Next, Jesse Minter. Jesse, 1916S. 1916S. I appreciate it, yo man. Thank you. I will be doing my best to pick up as much as I can to see that we have plenty to play with for the remainder of the year. Here's one for Techstar. Techstar 1916D. Very nice looking 1916D. Nice, sharp, very fine. You're not going to find coins like these for $2.50 at any coin shop. Okay, this is the one that's got Randy on it, but it is actually Roger Borland. Roger B. Roger B gets a 1925S. 1925S for Roger. Here, let's do this. Let me put in nope, that's not what I meant to do. Wait a minute, here we go. we go. That'll remind us. There we go. All right. I feel better about that now. Don't you? Who's next? Next up, Marshall. Mr. Marshall will be the proud new owner of a nice 1925. Really nice 1925. Have a little bit of luster left on that one. Very nice. Next up, Mr. Otis. Otis with a nice BU 1943. BU 1943. What do you guys think so far? Having fun? Working out for you? Who's next? Mark? Mark, 1925D. 1925D. Malcolm? Malcolm with a nice 1928S Woody. 1928S Woody. Let's see what the reverse on that looks like. Still got the Woody on the reverse too. Very nice. Alright, let me uncloud things here a little. Put a little more room in the box. There we go. Next up. Spoils you from looking at any others. Well, I appreciate that so much. I try the best I can to keep quality around. Here's Mr. Worley, 1925S. Very nice looking 1925S. What's more, folks, these coins have not been checked for RPMs, double dies, or any of that stuff. So it might behoove you to put a glass up to these. Here's a bonus. Remember what the bonus was? Bonus 1924D. Who gets a 1924D? Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne wins something every time he comes around. So I am going to make a little tag. I don't have the 24Ds out right now, but you'll get a 24D in fine condition. There's that. I'm going to put this on Donnie Wayne's card here. Put on his chip. The bonus chip goes to the side now. And there we go. That's like probably a $30 coin. About a $30 coin. Who's next? Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux picks up a 1941S. Nice uncirculated 1941S. That it is. And Donnie Wayne doesn't even know when he's getting into these things. Until he's already won something. He's like, what? Me? Did I win something? Oh, Marshall, you need to sell some? Techstar. Techstar now, 1937. Are you wanting 10,000 rolls, Marshall, or are you wanting to sell 10,000 rolls? There's Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley next with a nice 1954 Philadelphia. That is a beautiful coin for a 54. That's pretty high grade for a 54. Here's another Donnie Wayne. Let's see what Donnie Wayne gets this time. 1949S. Nice BU coin. 1949S. Why don't you give me a call, Marshall? Talk about what you need. Ted Evans. Ted Evans up next. 1928 Philadelphia. Nice 28 Philadelphia for Ted. And up next, Shay Shay. Shay Shay with a 15D. 1915 Denver. Next up, Fat Fool. Ooh, 1923S. That'll tickle your toenails. 23S is a tough date. And Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray gets a 1943D. Nice one. Nice 43D there. That's for Kelly Ray. Next, Techstar. Well, how about a 1932D for Techstar? Nice looking coin there. Let's see, what's next? Yo Man. 25S. Yo Man gets a 25S. Nice little Woody. For Yo Man. Now Raymond. Raymond gets 1940. Beautiful, bright, red, 1940. So you're not going to see that every day. And Patreus. Pulled a lot of him early on. Now it's probably going to slow down a little bit. 1953D. Beautiful, shiny red 1953D for Patreus. Next up, well, Raymond again. Mr. Lungy gets a nice 1928 Philadelphia. 28P in nice AU condition. Let's see, what do we have next? Stone Cutter. This is actually RJ Stone. So RJ Stone will pick up. There's a nice uncirculated 1946S. Nice 46S. Otis. Otis up next. How about a 1925D? 25D for Otis. Next up, Yo Man. And Yo Man gets a 1911D. 1911D. Let's see what's next. Toddler 68. Toddler 68. Ooh, this one's nice. 1926S. 1926S. Fast becoming one of the semi-keys of the series. These things, 10 years ago, you could get one in this condition for $2 or $3. Now it's a $7, $8 coin. They've gone way up in value. Now you think, $7, $8 really isn't all that much, but when we started at $2, it makes a big difference. Another one for Taco John. Taco John up next with a 1948D. Okay. Get these out of there into here. Take this out of here. Make myself a little bit of room. There we go. And next up, Mr. Fletcher. I think this is his first one, isn't it? 1924S. Mr. Fletcher with a 1924S. These are the kinds of coins I used to run individually in the auction, hoping I could sell them for $3, $4, $5. Here's Yo Man 1916S. 1916S. Just picked up a lot of inventory, and I have plenty. Here's Malcolm. Malcolm now, 1925S. Nice 1925S for Malcolm. See what's up next. Adam Chambers. Adam, it's a 1909 Philadelphia. 1909 Philadelphia in very fine condition. About a $5 coin. And next up, Fat Fool. What has Fat Fool got? 27D. 1927D. Oh, it's got something over the front of it. 27D. There we go. Next up, well, we got Fat Fool again. Fat Fool this time gets a 1924S. How about a 1924S? Beautiful San Francisco coins in the 1920s, becoming much more difficult to find than they used to be. Here's Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux now. How about a 1927S? 1927S. Nice 1927S Lincoln cent. Then next up. Oh, there's Patreus again. Just when you think you've run out. Patreus comes back. Gets a 1915D. 1915D. I can remember when I was filling my first Whitman folders, my first blue penny folders. The coins that I was getting from these dates were barely legible. Barely legible. But now I'm doing coins in very fine condition, like this 1925S in a mystery pool. I hope you guys enjoy this. Here's one for Raymond. Raymond now, 1942D. 1942D, uncirculated. Now, folks, don't pay any attention to the prices on these holders. Some of these prices are 30 and 40 years old. A lot of these coins have been in their holders for many years. 15S. 1915S for a toddler. So like this one had an $18 price tag marked to $8. It's probably close to what I paid for it. 1915S. But it's probably worth more than that now. Here's Adam. Adam again with a 1924S. Pretty nice looking 24S. What do we have next? Marshall. Marshall up next. 09 VDB. Nice AU 1909 VDB. There we go. Next in, toddler again. Got toddler 68 this time. 1943 Philadelphia. 1943p. Nice uncirculated coin. And next up, Parvis. Parvis gets a 1926S. Not the best condition coin, but I tell you what, 26S, they are increasingly difficult to get and more valuable. Next up, Malcolm. Malcolm with a 1943 Philadelphia. 1943 for Malcolm. Next up, Bo Palmer. Bo? How about a 25S? Another 1925S, this time for Bo Palmer. And next, and JJ Addict. JJ here gets 1947. Philadelphia, 1947. Very nice looking 47 Philadelphia. Next up then, Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne, how about a 1914? Philadelphia, 1914. When I was younger and I kept getting books that were relatively close to full and I started just seeing nothing but duplicates, I'd just get another book and just fill another book. I ended up filling 10 or 15 books when I was young. So 1942 Philadelphia. For Paul. This one says Randy, so it's for Roger. Roger Borland. Roger Borland with a 1940. 1940. Nice little color on that 1940. And that's for Roger. Next up, Malcolm again. Malcolm, 1949. Uncirculated, 1949. A nice coin. Toddler 68 comes up again. And Toddler 68 this time. 1924S. 1924S for Toddler 68. Next in, Stanley. Stanley, 1943. 1943. Shay Shay. Shay Shay in there next. Well, that's a nice one, 1915D. 1915D. Parviz comes up next. I hope you're going to get one that you need for your book. How about a 1936D? 1936D. Nice older coin there. I'm going to have to dump some of the contents here. Hang on just a second. I move some of this over to another box. There we go. That'll do it for now. What do we got? Mark? Mark's up next. 1919D. 1919D. Israel Encarnacion. Hello? Hola. Here's one for Bo Palmer. Bo Palmer up now. 1926D. A nice looking 1926D there. Get back up here. There we go. Who's next? Well, there's Toddler 68 again. This time, Toddler 68. How about a 1948D? Very nice looking 1948D. Next up, Parviz. Parviz this time with a 1940 Philadelphia. And then Stanley. Stanley now, 1916D. 1916D for Stanley. Nice, very fine coin. 1916D. What do we have next? Well, it says Randy, so it's for Roger. Roger Borland. Roger gets. How about a 1939? 1939. Israel, we can't do buying and selling right now. I understand what you're saying, but I can't speak the Spanish to return to you. If anyone else can type to him in Spanish, please. Let him know that we are not buying and selling here. Marshall. Marshall. Another 1909 VDB. Marshall's pulling the crowd on 1909 VDBs today. Got them all going on. Let's see, a CA. Not really even sure what CA would be on a coin. Here's another one for Roger Borland. Roger Borland now gets, let me figure out where I'm supposed to be pulling this from. Here we go, 1928S for Roger. 1928S. Who knows of a coin and it has a CA on it? I think I would need more information. Now, Toddler 68. How about a 1918D? 1918D. Nice earlier mint marked coin. Up next, Ted Evans. Ted Evans. Marshall. 1923S. 23S for Ted Evans. 23S is probably the second most difficult S mint in the 20s to get, 1926S being the hardest. Then after the 23S would be 1921S. 26S, 23S, 21S. And then the 24, then the 25. There's another 26S. No, that's a 26D. Sorry. 26D for Mark. Then after the 25S would be in order 27, 28, and 29. 29 being the easiest of them. Here's Patreus. 1953 Philadelphia. Beautiful 53 Philadelphia. At least MS65 here. That is a winner all in itself because 53 Philadelphia usually come spotted. Okay, this one says Randy, so it's for Roger Borland. Roger Borland. A 1928S. 1928S. Adam. Coins and Ghouls. The name he goes by. 1916D. 1916D for Adam. I have to shift some of these coins out here. There we go. All right. Next up. Well, Toddler 68. Toddler 68 will get a 1928S. This is a nice one. Small mint mark. 1928S. Next up, Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley, how about a 1918D in very fine plus? 1918D. What else? Bo Palmer. Boo, Palmer. How about a 1948S? Nice uncirculated 1948S. Next up, Paul Hampton. Paul, 1949S. 49S. Next up, Roger Borland again. Roger, nice 1943D. Pretty looking 1943D. A cutie pie of a coin. Let's see, who's next? Stanley? Stanley, how about a Drop Dead Gorgeous 1916D? 1916D. There's that for sure. Next up, Yo Man. Yo Man gets a 1953D. Unchecked for varieties. Make sure you guys let me know if you get any goodies for varieties on any of the coins that you get out of this pull. I'd be very interested to know. Taco John. Taco John. 1945S. Pretty looking 1945S. Next up, Mark. Mark. 1930S. 1930S. There is that. All right, next up, Raymond. Mr. Lungi. Hey, 1926S. Some of you guys are cornering the market here on the nice stuff. Share, and share alike. Here's Mr. Marshall again. What does Mr. Marshall get this time? How about a 1911D? 1911D. First year of Denver Mint Lincoln Cents. Of course, the Denver Mint opened in 1906, but 1911 was its first copper coin. Raymond with a 16S. Pretty 16S. For Raymond. Next up, Techstar. Let's see what Techstar gets. Ooh, 1938 Philadelphia. Nice 38 Philadelphia. Nice red BU coin. Enjoy. Next up, JJ. JJ Addict with a 1912D. Look at that. 1912D for JJ. Hey, Richard. Nice to see you show. I pulled a couple of your chips, but not near all of them. You still got plenty of chips left. You could be the grand prize winner. Right inside this black bag right here, I have a 1931S Lincoln Cent with somebody's name. That somebody will be the last person drawn. Here's 1925S. And I'm going to draw that last chip out of the black bag. And what is in that black bag is a 1931S Lincoln Cent that would belong to the person whose chip is in that black bag. Otis, how about 1923S? Difficult one to get. 21, 22, and 23 were all quite unique years for the Lincoln cent. We ended up with 3 years in which not all 3 mints made coins. The 21 and the 21S. Denver made no coins, no Lincoln cents in 1921. Then we had the 22 where only Denver made Lincoln cents. Then we go to 1923 where again there were no Denver mint cents. All are 23 Philly and San Francisco. Here's R.J. Stone. Not Stone Cutter, but R.J. Stone gets a 1924 S. Nice one. 24 was the first year that they returned to doing Lincoln cents at all 3 mints, P, D, and S. Let's see what's next. Otis. Otis with a 1953 Philadelphia. Nice gemmy looking 1953 Philadelphia Lincoln cent. 1951, 1953, 1954. All years we're getting a really nice red Philadelphia Lincoln cent without spots. Is difficult to do. Here's Carl. One for Carl. Carl with a really nice looking 1920 Philadelphia. 1920 Philadelphia. Yeah, see, I thought about making a sticker that I'd put on the other side of the chips because all the new chips that I'm getting are blank on both sides when I get them, so they look like this on both sides, and they're clay chips. So I put a sticker on one side with a name, then the other side is blank. I'm thinking about making a copper coin sticker to put on the back. It's not that not making sense, that makes no sense. But what it was going to say is turning dollars into cents or turning dollars into pennies. Wouldn't that be cool? 1928S for Paul. 28S for Paul. Next up, Malcolm. Malcolm will get a 1933D. 1933D. Not the easiest to get. It's the last issue of the early set. The next year, 1934, starts the short set. Patreus out. And 1948S. The toning on that one. Nice coin. 1948S for Patreus. Then next, Randy, which is Roger Borland. Roger Borland up next. Roger Borland gets. Let's do something better for Roger. That was the end dreg of that particular box. Let's try a pull out of the back box. 1918S. 1918S for Roger. There's that. I'm pulling out of a second box I have over here. Anything behind this point. And I've got just a few spaces left in the back of this box where I will put them. I'm thinking about actually making poker chips with people's names on them so I can send them a poker chip with their name. Stonecutter came up with the idea, said that he would love to buy one. I'm thinking, well, if I can get my money back out of them, why not? Got a 53D for Stanley. Next up, Marshall. I'll pull one out of the middle here. Look straight up in the air and just yank a coin and see what I get. Here it is. This is the one I'm doing, 1939. 1939, nice 1939 Lincoln cent. Got a little bit of a Larry on the back of it. What's next? Yeah, the very next coin in that box was a 1909 VDB. I didn't put very many of them in here, and Marshall seems to be real close to getting all of them. Let's see, way back in the back of the bag, I pull Carl. And Carl, get the next coin in the box, 1943. Nice looking 1943 Unk. And that is the end of that box. But I definitely don't want to turn around making the same mistake I made the other night. After I finished the nickel proof pull, I actually spilled one of the boxes. That was a tragedy. I had to go back and watch the show to get all the right coins out. Hang on just a minute. Let me get another box. Normally have myself all together and ready to go. Today, it wasn't necessarily the case. My wife's birthday has nudged me in a forgetful direction. Anyhow, had to take her out for dinner today. Didn't want to cook, so we went out for dinner. All right, here we go. Next out, Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne will get the next coin in the box, and that is a 1911D. Very nice looking 1911D there for Donnie Wayne. Next up, Otis. Otis, how about a 1916S that happens to be a Woody? 16S that happens to be a Woody. She had an excellent birthday. And it wasn't even an even number. It was just a birthday. But I thought, well, you know, she's had a rough time at work lately. About time to give her something good. So we got her a really nice birthday. R.J. Stone. R.J. Stone, 1938S. Beautiful 1938S. BU Lincoln Cent. Elvis movie. I tell you, being from Memphis and having grown up in Memphis during the period of time when Elvis died, there were parts of it that they're kind of emotional for me because the guy who plays Elvis in the movie is excellent at the job. There's a really pretty 1911D. That one's for Mr. Minter. But the actual plot of the movie really centers more around his manager, the Colonel Tom, than it does around Elvis. And I wasn't thoroughly impressed with the story. I wasn't really there with the storyline in the movie. I kind of wish it had been more of a things you didn't know about Elvis Presley movie. But it wasn't. If you know your Elvis, if you were raised in the Memphis area and you know a lot about Elvis, then there really wasn't a whole lot in the movie that you didn't already know. So 23S for Mr. Fletcher. Next up, Kelly Ray. How about a 24? Very nice looking 1924. That's right, mystery pulls. Hello, Matthew. But, having been around during that period of time in Memphis, there were some of the parts where it was showing, and it was actually just a little bit confusing at times whether you were looking at the actor or whether you were looking at footage of the real Elvis. Toward the end of the movie, in fact, well, I'm not going to say that. Go watch it. You'll see. Here's one for JJ. JJ pulls a beautiful 1924 Lincoln Cent. Really nice looking 1924 for JJ. Next up, how about a $10 chip? $10. Next person I draw gets $10 out of the kitty plus a coin. $10 out of the kitty for Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux plus a 1919S Lincoln Cent. So there we go for Mr. Boudreaux. And I am going to put that Mr. Boudreau gets that $10 chip. So there's that. Come back here. There we go. See, I got B-O-U-D. I know what that means. On a $10 chip there from Mr. Boudreau. Congrats to Mr. Boudreau. And here is one for Stanley. Stanley Picks, 1925D. 1925D. Wife said that she did not thoroughly enjoy the movie itself, but really was just going out of curiosity to see how well this Austin guy played Elvis, and he was excellent, spot on excellent. 1943. You know, I actually thought that the part was going to end up looking like like some sort of Elvis impersonator, but in truth, the guy actually really did look like Elvis. Donnie Wayne. You're hearing that from a guy who grew up in Memphis. Donnie Wayne with a 1916D. Oh, here's another $10 chip. Another $10 chip. And this one goes to Dragon Name, Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray with a $10 chip. Plus a 1939D. Nice uncirculated 1939D Lincoln. That's a win all the way around. Yeah. I'll put Kelly Ray's name on here real quick. There we go. Kelly Ray. And out next, Carl. Yeah, and when he did sing, I mean, he sounded like Elvis when he sang. He was really good. Very, very, very slightly off-tune sometimes, but he actually did the singing himself. It's like he was the stunt guy for himself. This is what a normal 1954 looks like. Still worth a couple of dollars, but that's what a normal 54 looks like. It's got a few, marbling, you might say. Check that out. Here's a bonus. Next person I draw gets a 1924D. And that next person I draw will be Donnie Wayne. Wait a minute. Is this? Yeah, Donnie Wayne already got a 24D. But that's how the chips fall. I'm sure he's going to tell me to send one of those to Paul. But there we go. 24D for Donnie Wayne. I'm going to put this bonus back in. I'm going to do another 24D. Okay, I got one for Jim Fletcher here. Jim Fletcher, how about a 1909? 1909 Philly. Nice, very fine, extremely fine coin. That's for Mr. Fletcher. Next up, Sissy. Sissy with a nice 1928D. 28D for Sissy. Next up, Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall with a pretty 1946S. 1946S. Next up, Fat Fool. 1939S. Fat Fool. 1939S. Next up, Fat Fool again. This time 1916D. 1916D. Next up, hey, here we go. We're going to try it again. 1924D. 1924D goes to, it's not green, Bo Palmer. Bo Palmer now with a 1924D. And there we go. Bo Palmer, 1924D. Next, 19, so go to Parvez, 1944D. 1944D, pretty 1944D link in there. How it goes to Parvez. And Raymond Longy. Raymond is up next. Raymond gets a 19. Ooh, that's a pretty one. 1909 VDB. Nice AU coin. Raymond Longy. Next up, Bo again. Bo now. 1928S. 28S for Bo. Next up, Parvez. Well, 1918S for Parvez. Moving right along. Marshall. 1939D. 39D for Marshall. Next up, Yo Man. Yo Man with a 1909. 1909 Philadelphia. Got a little bit of a woody going on with that. Little stripes on the obverse. And that's for Yo Man. Next up, Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley, 1928D. 1928D. Paul, you bring all kinds of luck to Donnie. What about yourself? Here's JJ Addict. JJ Addict now with a 1918S. What's up next? Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux with a 1923S. Really nice one. Very strong lettering. What's up next? Ted. Ted with a 26D. The 26D for Ted. And get these moved over to the other side. There we go. Take this big thing out of the front. Yeah, make up some room here. Next up, Shay Shay. Shay Shay. 1929, Philadelphia. This one's got some original luster. It's a 1929. Nice coin. Malcolm. How about a 26D? 26D for Malcolm. Next is Roger Borland. Roger. 1928D. Nice 28D for Roger. Oops. What did I do? Hang on a second here. I tapped something on my keyboard and now my screen is messed up. Oh, come on. I don't know what to do to make it go away. Hang on. I'm looking for it. It's taking up my full screen. I can't see the chat in YouTube. I can't see anything other than basically the bag and the chips. Hang on a second. No, it's not this. It's the... let's see. Well, I wish I knew what I did to get it this way. I would know what to do to undo it. No, that's not going to work. Okay, I wish I knew. Oh boy. I don't know how to get rid of this. I don't know what to do now. I can't see YouTube. Let's see. There we go. Now I've got YouTube back. I don't know what to do about my screen. It doesn't matter, I guess. I've got my broadcast studio is taking up the entire screen with no buttons to reduce it. And I did it, I think, by accidentally holding or accidentally touching the Windows key or something. I touched it with the heel of my hand, and it did this, and I'm like, oh, what do I do to make it undo that? Still can't figure it out. Here's one for Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley's up next with a 1925S. 1925S for Mr. Worley. I figured out just enough to limp back. Still don't have it the way I need it. But anyhow, you guys will be able to see it anyway. I can't. Here's Sissy. Sissy now. 1926S. Tough issue to get. 26S. Get this stupid keyboard out of the way. That was my problem to begin with. I don't need the keyboard. All right, here we go. Adam. Mr. Chambers. Oh, nice 1921S. Got you a nice looking 1921S. A little bit of a woody there. Let's see, what's next? Mark. And for Mark, another really nice 1953 Philadelphia. Toddler 68. Toddler 68 now. 1926D. Nice looking 26D. I think we're probably a little better than halfway done at this point. There's Mr. Worley. I guess while I play with my screen for a little while, we can take a intermission. This one's for Mr. Worley. Really nice looking 1929 there. Next up, Malcolm. But a 1949D. Nice looking 49D for Malcolm. Next up, Parviz. Parviz, 1928, Philadelphia. Nice 1928 Philadelphia. Next up, Raymond, Mr. Lungy. Raymond. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful 1920S. 1920S. That for Raymond. Next up, Otis. How about a 1929 Philadelphia? 1929 Philadelphia with a Woody. Really nice Woody on this one. This one's got some original luster left on it. Nice, nice. Next, JJ. 1940. 1940 for JJ. Let's see what I have next. Fat Fool. How about a 1928? 1928 with most of its original detail. Next up, Ted Evans. Ted, 1931 Philadelphia. That's the plastic giving it that color. There. The plastic and the lighting. Next up, and last for now, before we go to the intermission, will be Jesse. Jesse Minter will pick up a 1926S. 1926S. And I'm going to give it about 8 to 10 minutes. You guys have a chance to go to your fridge, go to the restroom, do whatever it takes, come back 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to try working on this issue that I have to figure out how to get rid of my problem. Don't know how to get rid of this problem. But I'll still be here. I can hear you. I just am not sure how to... Aha, there we go. Full screen interface. And that I did not know, but I do now. It's okay. We can take a little bit of a break. You want to swap it with something, Marshall? If you want the 09, they're yours. If you don't, then I can swap it for another coin. So you just let me know, swap or no swap. Completely and entirely up to you. Give it about another 5 or 6 minutes, and then we can jump back into it. Let me go ahead and prep my box up. Get some of the coins out of this box, put them into my present and current box. Okay, Marshall, I appreciate it. I will do that. Let's see. That wasn't one of them. Marshall has said that he would like for me to swap out one of his 1909s, put it back in the box, and get him a different coin. So I am charging through right now looking for a 1909 he picked up. Let's see. Shouldn't be that hard to find. So I don't have these entered on any kind of a list or anything. It's just everything's at random. That's Adam. 1909. Here we go. Alright. I got Marshall's chip out. And I take the 09 VDB and I stick it back in the box. And for Marshall, I will pull out this coin. This is a 1939D. 39D for Marshall. That goes in the box for Marshall. And we are ready to get moving again. Get that box put back over there. And here we go. Next up, Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray gets a BU 1942 Philadelphia. 1942 Philadelphia for Kelly Ray. Next up will be Paul Hampton with a 1943 Philadelphia. 1943 Philadelphia for Paul. Next up, JJ. JJ with a 1944 Philadelphia. 1944 Philly. And next up, Kelly Ray. Back to Kelly Ray again. 1913D. 1913D. Slightly tougher coin to find. Alright, here we go, Adam. Adam up next with a 1918 Philadelphia. Nice, extremely fine coin. 1918 Philadelphia. And next, Mr. Boudreaux. 1936D. 36D for Mr. Boudreaux. I'm starting to feel light in the bag. Here's one for Mr. Fletcher. And for Mr. Fletcher, we're going to draw out a 1919S. 1919S. Next up, Kelly Ray again. Got into a wave of Kelly Ray. Hey, look at this. There's an AU 1929 Philadelphia. Nice 1929 Philadelphia for Kelly Ray. Now what do we have? Paul. Back to Mr. Hampton. Here's a 1925D. 1925D for Paul. Kelly Ray again. Wow. This is the Kelly Ray and Paul show. Starring Kelly Ray and Paul. Here's 1924S for you, Kelly Ray. Ted Evans. Ted Evans reporting on a 1925 Denver 1925D. Carl. Well, Carl gets a 1925D as well. 1925D for Carl. Then, JJ. JJ Addict with another 1925S. 25S for JJ. And Otis comes up next. Otis with a 1941S. 1941S. Is there anyone who thinks they purchased in on this who has not yet seen their name drawn even once? If I got you in there once, then that means you've got all your chips in there. There is some possible chance, maybe, that I might have missed you completely. It's Techstar with a 1943. Next up, Yo Man. Yo Man with a 1942D. 1942D. Mr. French. Mr. French got a couple of spots in here. What does he get? 1953 Philadelphia. It's one of the nice ones. 1953 Philly. Difficult to find without a bunch of stripes and stuff on it. Spots and patches and stuff. Here's Ted Evans. Ted Evans picks up a 54. Very common 1954. That's the way they come in BU generally. Stanley. Stanley up next with a 1913D. 1913D. What's up next? Jesse? Jesse now, 1918, Philadelphia. Really nice one. 1918, Philadelphia. Oop, got another $10 gift certificate. $10 goes to... wonder who I'm going to pull this time. I'll pull that one. Jesse. Jesse Minter. $10 plus... how about that? 1936D for Jesse. I was pulling those out, wasn't I? I take this and I'll put Jesse's name on a piece of paper and get it on there. Here we go. That's 3 out of 4. Got one more of those in here. Somewhere. Sissy. Sissy up next. You still awake, Sissy? There's a 25S. Or 25 plane, I'm sorry. It's 25 Philadelphia. Looks like it maybe comes with a dog hair. You can have the dog hair. Absolutely free. No extra charge. Next up, Mr. Boudreau. Monsieur Boudreau, pick a 1954. Decent looking 54 there. Not grand, but decent. Next up, Mr. Palmer, Bo. Bo Palmer picks up a 1929. Very nice looking 1929. And next, this will be Roger Borland. Roger Borland picking up a 1925D. 1925D, that's on the... it might be on the coin. Here's one for Mark. Mark now. Ooh, 1926S. Nice 26S for Mark. One of the tough ones. That's like a semi prize, because those are worth a lot more than what you paid for them. Bo Palmer. Bo with a 21S Woody. Look at that. It's freaky striped. 21S. Nice coin, Bo. Let's see. Grab some of the coins out of here. Put them back in my next box. And I am now ready to go. Again, here's Jesse. Jesse with a 1920 Philadelphia. Nice looking coin. 1920p. Techstar. Techstar up next. 28S. 28S for Techstar. Next up, Pull. 1937D. Uncirculated. 1937D. Nice one. Next, Malcolm. 1915D. 1915D. Carl. 1913 Philadelphia. Nice condition. 1913 Philadelphia for Carl. Let's see, Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray now. 1928. Nice looking 1928. We still got the big prize in here, 1931S with somebody's name on it. No idea whose it is. Ted Evans up next. Ted Evans. It's a 1932 Philadelphia. 1932 Philadelphia for Ted. Have to pull those out. There we go. Get on to the end of this box and the beginning of the next. Let's see, who's gonna get pulled? Jim. Kelly Ray, you still got one spot left. Jim, 27S. 27S for Jim. And Mr. Worley. Mr. Worley, 1946D. For Mr. Worley. Next up, Fafool. 1941D. A bit of a Larry on that one. 41D. Here's up next, Sissy. This is a 1943 for Sissy. 1943. Next up, Ted. Well-worn Ted chip. Also a 1943 for Ted. That's it for that box. Now, straight out of this box, back into this box. All right, here we go. Next up, this will be R.J. Stone. R.J. Stone with a 1912. 1912 Philadelphia. And next, Shay. 1953, Philadelphia. So who here knows they are still in the hunt? Who here knows it? Somebody here knows they still have at least one spot left. Here's Paul. (1916S). 16S for Paul. Parviz. Hey, Joe. Otis has a spot left. Kelly Ray thinks she has a spot left for sure. There's a 36D for Parviz. JJ still has at least one spot remaining. There's Techstar. So has the winner spoken up? Is it Kelly Ray? Is it Otis? Is it JJ? What do we have here? A 25S. Nice looking 1925S for Techstar. Jesse says he's still in the running. Here's Mr. Worley. We don't have very many left. It's a 1942D for Mr. Worley. Fat Fool. 43. 1943. Next up, Mark. How about a 1914? 1914 Philly. Ooh, Techstar says he thinks he's got maybe 3 left. How about that? I can see what the next coin is. It's going to be a nice one. Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux. It's a 1923S. 1923S for Mr. Boudreaux. Next in. Well, there is a Techstar. And Techstar gets one 1949S. 1949S. What do we got here next? Paul. Paul, 1932D. Ooh, that one's spotty. I'm going to draw you another coin. You'll get the 32. That one's yours to keep. And the other coin I'm going to draw from near the back of the box. This will be an area where we won't make it otherwise today. A 52D. 52D. Paul gets 2 coins for 1. Because I did not like the coin I pulled out. Parviz again. Parviz gets, how about a 1926S? A lot of 26S's going out today. 26S is one I usually keep very close ties on because it's one of the hardest ones to find. It really is. Yo Man. Yo Man with a 1954. Pretty nice one. Next up, Carl. 1919. 1919 for Carl. This will be Roger Borland. Roger Borland gets a 1920S. 1920S in very fine. Next up, R.J. Stone. R.J. Stone with a 1954. Next, Otis. Otis with a 1928. Philadelphia, 1928. It's a nice one. Mr. Palmer. 1929. 1929 Philly. Another nice one. Up next, Adam. I got one riding on the bottom down here. There we go. There we go. Get it all straightened out, Chuck. 1913D. Very nice looking 1913D. Max by Jesse was 10. Yes. There's going to be one of the 1924D, I believe, and one $10 chip left. Here's Adam. Plus whomever is inside here, the grand prize winner. 1937S. 1937S for Adam. Next out comes Mr. French. That's 2 of 2 for Mr. French. 1928, nice one. Nice 1928 there. And next out, Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Boudreau with a 1933, Philadelphia. 1933. Well, there were 3 24Ds drawn so far. One of them was Bo. One of them was Donnie Wayne, and another one for Donnie Wayne. And I think I put one back, so there would be 5 total. I'm pretty sure that's right. All right, let's see. Well, there's Techstar. Techstar pulls. 1928 Philadelphia. 1928 Philadelphia. Is that it for you, Techstar, or do you have one more? I think I've pulled 2. You said you thought you had 3. We'll see. Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher with a 1946S. And next, Taco John. Taco John with his well-worn chip gets a 1941 uncirculated Woody. A little spot on the front, but it's a beautiful coin. You can rewatch it, Jesse, sure. Max buy-in was 10. Shay Shay. Shay Shay with a 1943 Philadelphia. I can tell you that each person here only has 10 chips. I never made more than 10 for anyone. There's Shay Shay again. Probably just crushed a dream. 1912 Philadelphia. 1912 Philly. Getting closer to the end. We have about 20 chips left. Roughly 20. There's one for Donnie Wayne. Donnie Wayne, 1954. Next up, there's Jesse. Jesse, 1916S. 1916S for Jesse. Yo Man. Yo Man, 1936D. 1936D. Mark. This next one is a 1930D. 1930D. Next up will be Marshall. Marshall with a 1927S. That's in pretty nice shape there. It's a softie, but it's a VF. It's a nice VF. High, upper end VF. Let's see. Who's next? Bo? Bo, Mr. Palmer. 1918S. 1918S. for Bo. Next up, Otis. Otis will get a 1921S. Nice 1921S there. And toward the back of the bag, we pull Sissy. And Sissy is here for another 1926D. Oh, that's perfectly fine, Jess. You can watch it, sure. Absolutely, brother. No worries. Carl? As part of the reason why I record these shows, I record them not only for the sake of knowing that what I've done was right, also being able to have a record of what I've done in case I or anyone else needs it, like I did last week. Carl, the 1929. I swear I took one of these boxes and the whole box flipped upside down. Coins everywhere, chips everywhere. I had no idea what belonged to who. I was able to go through the show and absolutely put the whole thing together. Techstar, you were correct. There is a third Techstar since you said so. Got a 1948S for you, which could possibly mean you've been knocked out of the black bag. Who's up next? Shay Shay. Shay Shay gets a 1918S. 1918S for Shay Shay. I also record these so that anybody can go back and watch them for education's sake, because I do say a few things once in a while. Something educational actually slips out of my mouth almost on accident, and I can't remember what I said, but I tell you what, the camera sure can. Techstar is out. There's a 23S for Parviz. I don't know, did I pull all of yours, Paul? I'm not paying any attention. I don't know. Here's Toddler 68. Toddler 68 now with a 1926D. Let me do this. Let me bring this down just a little bit more so we can see a little bit more of the coins that we're looking at. There we go. 26D for Toddler. Next out, Jesse. Jesse again. Jesse this time gets a 1929 Philadelphia. Nice woody. Beautiful woody. Runs in two directions. There you go, Jess. A nice coin for you, brother. Paul has two left. Oh, Mr. Boudreau is keeping count. That's why he's being so quiet. He's trying to keep up with me. Here's Yo Man. Yo Man now pulls a 1917 said obverse. Well, it is obverse lamination. That's really cool. That's for Yo Man. Taco John. Taco John now. 1928D. 1928 Denver. Nice XF to AU coin. Taco John there. Tried to scratch my head. Alright, what do we have next? Taco John. Boy, I brought Taco John out 2 in a row. Talk about dashing hopes. A 26D for Taco John. $26D for Taco. Let's see what comes up next. Fat Fool. Fat Fool 1929 Philadelphia Woody. Another nice Woody from 1929. Got some interesting coins here. I kind of chose carefully to be sure that there were more winners than losers for sure. Here's another one for Mr. Fletcher. And Mr. Fletcher pulls out a 1931D. 1931D. If he gets the 31S, I'll give him a 31 plain, so he has all three. That's for Mr. Fletcher. Here's a 1928D again. Mr. Fletcher. I hope this isn't tapping you out there, brother, but it's a nice coin nonetheless. 1928D. Not one of the easiest to get. Let's see. I hope I didn't pull a bonus chip out and stick it in there. I guess if I did that, it would go to the last person I drew. I didn't even think about that. There could be a black chip inside the black bag. Here's one for Bo. Bo with a beautiful 1928D. Very nice 1928D for Bo. That would be something, wouldn't it? Stanley. How about a 26S for Mr. Stanley? 26S. Always tough to get. Carl? $1948D. Next, Paul. $39D. $39D for Paul. Next, Mr. Boudreaux, 1954. Adam. How about a 16D? Oops. 16D. All right. Down to the end of the row. Let's see what we pull now. Parviz. 1919 Philadelphia. 1919 Philadelphia for Parviz. Oh, there's Paul. Paul with a 1921S. $1921S. Jim Bonus Fletcher. Here's Adam. Adam, 1926S. Beautiful 1926S Lincoln. Those are actually really tough to get. How I had so many of them for this. Let me slide everything forward so I've got grips on everything toward the front of the bag. That's the point we're at. There we go. Got everything up toward the front. All right, next out. Oops. There's Mr. Fletcher again. Mr. Fletcher, are you running out, sir? Getting closer. 1929. 1929, there's one for Mr. Fletcher, 1929. Moving on to the next person. There's Jesse. Jesse again. 1941D. 41D for Jesse. Paul didn't make it to the finals, did he? Somebody knows who is in the finals. That would be Mr. Boudreaux. Mr. Boudreaux is actually keeping score. Here's 1928. 1928 Philadelphia for Stanley. Is Kelly still in? Kelly? Do you know? I don't know. I have no idea who's in, who's out. Raymond. Raymond up next. 1931 Philadelphia. 31 Philadelphia for Raymond. Next up, Sissy. Sissy gets a 1926S. Kelly has one left. Ted Evans. Ted Evans gets a 1947. Nice BU 1947. There's Mr. Boudreau. Mr. Boudreau, are you out now, or is this not your last one? It's a 1940S for Mr. Boudreau. All right. Oh, he's out. Sissy. Sissy out now for a 1943. Philadelphia, 1943. Spot on the reverse there. Oh, I believe he is. He did keep score last time. JJ Addict. JJ gets a 1952D. Donnie Wayne. Up next, Donnie Wayne, 1925D. Donnie Wayne, 1925D. Ted Evans, 1940 Philadelphia. 1940 Philadelphia for Ted Evans. Mr. Worley. How about a 1916S for Mr. Worley? Who's up next? Stanley? Stanley got a nice uncirculated 1938S. Let's see, who is next? Mark. Mark. It's a 1910S. It says it has a lamination. It does. It has a lamination through the date on the obverse, and it's a 1910S. Oh, you're not going to find one of those every day. Sissy. Does that mean Sissy's out? Or does she still have another one? 28S for Sissy. 28S. Patreus. Up next. Patreus. She's out. Okay. 1918. Philadelphia for Patreus. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chips left. I have 6 chips left. And I will draw Malcolm. Malcolm with a 1923S. 1923S. 5 chips remain. Actually 6 total because I have 1 in the black bag. JJ. JJ Addict. I'm assuming that at this point anybody gets a chip out and they are out of the running for the 31S. Next out. Bonus. Bonus. This will be a 1924D for the person I pull next. Kelly Ray. Kelly Ray, have you? No, you haven't gotten a 24D out of me yet. So Kelly Ray will get a 1924D. That's close to a big winner. Right? What have I got left? I got 2 chips left inside the bag. 2 chips. So we've got 3 people left, I'm thinking. How about it, Mr. Boudreaux? Give us some names. We've got 3 people left. Let's get a second runner-up, a first runner-up, and a grand prize winner. Three spots left in the game. Well, Kelly Ray, you didn't get the big prize, but so we've got Donnie, Fletcher, and Jesse. Okay. Donnie Wayne, Jim Fletcher, and Jesse Minter. Grab one of the 2 chips out of the bag, and it is Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher with a 1928S. Mr. Fletcher gets a 1928S. And so we only get 2 possibilities here. And Raymond. We have a spot for Raymond as well. Okay. I'll draw the last chip out of the bag. That belongs to Jesse. Last chip out of the bag, and he gets a nice looking 1915D. Nice 1915D. It's been cleaned at one time, but it's still high detail. 1915D. And now, out of the bag. Out of the bag, I pull the coin first. There it is. 1931S. Then I go back and pull the chip, and the chip belongs to, it is Raymond Longy. Must have miscounted on the Donnie Wayne, because I don't have anything left in here. There we go. Raymond wins the big coin of the day, 1931S. And let me get my pen out. And here we go. Put it in here with the coin. And it says 1931S, Raymond L. So Raymond gets this. And that is the end of that, boys and girls. We have 4 1924 Ds. We have 2 for Donnie Wayne. We have 1 for Bo Palmer. And then we have 1 for Kelly Ray. And then I have, I believe, 4 $10 bonuses. I think I put the first one back in the box. Would have been in this box here. I had 3 or 4 of them. I don't remember straight off. I had 3 or 4 of them. But the 3 that I have out belong to Jesse Minter, Kelly Ray, and Mr. Boudreaux. Those are the $10 credits. The $10 credits that I have are awarded to you I keep track of them on a spreadsheet. You can use them as credit anytime you want to. They're the same as cash. I had 4 of them. Now, was that the... okay, the bonus went for the 24 Ds. I know that. But did I have 3 or did I have 4 of these $10 chips? I either had 3 or 4 of them. I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you very much, sir. Looks like I had 3 of them, because I don't see a 4th one. Looks like I just had 3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them. Okay. So that was it. Mr. Boudreaux got 1. Kelly Ray got another one. And Jesse got another one. So Kelly Ray was actually close to the very top of everything on this heap, because she got not only a 24D, but she also got a $10 bonus. Raymond got the grand prize, but he didn't win anything else. Sending me a picture of the nicest toner you've ever found, and you found it the other day. Awesome. Very nice. That'll be interesting to see, for sure. All right, folks. Well, I appreciate it. I will be working on inventory and working on getting things together for the Lincoln Cent store while I'm gone, trying to get my SKU system working properly for me and try to get everything right and together. I've got someone getting ready to start working on that inventory and get inventory up on the Lincoln Cent store, so I can start issuing credit for that store here on these shows. That way you can use it in the store, or you can use it in the auctions. Let's see. I guess that's about it. That's about all I've got. I appreciate it. Thank you, Yeoman. Thank you very much. And I will do that. I will be very safe. Eric and I will be on a road trip together. It's going to be very fun. Nice. Yes, everything will be shipped out before the end of this week. This was the last thing that I had to do before I started shipping things, and I've got everybody's stuff together. And all I have to do now is finish printing the postage, get it in the boxes, and mail it out. So I'm going to schedule a pickup tomorrow and get up at probably 7 in the morning and start working on packages. So I have everything done that I needed to get done. I'll get those 24Ds into holders for the winners. And, well, that's all I've got. I definitely appreciate it, boys and girls. I definitely appreciate your continued support. Mr. Marshall, if you happen to be around, you can give me a call in about 15 minutes or so. Give me a chance to get everything shut down. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And have a great July, everyone. Have a great July. I'll see you later.